Hi folks, Kevin J. O'Connor here, Carolina's own Podforce 5. Sitting here with a good friend today, Jeff Arbaugh. Jeff, nice enough to come join us, and we're going to find out a little bit about Jeff, what he's done, where he's going, and how we all can get involved with some of the stuff that he's doing. Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing great, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining me. So I'm always fond of introducing Jeff as one of my celebrity friends. He doesn't necessarily like the term. Tell me about that. I think you're a celebrity. You've done a lot of things that deserve that title, but what's the term celebrity mean to you?
Well, I probably need to look it up in the dictionary to find out what the true meaning is, but I don't think I have anything close to a celebrity. Just a guy with some experience doing some interesting things, I think.
Just one little reason I call him a celebrity is because some of our older fans may, like me, would recognize this young man as a General Hospital soap opera star back a few years ago. I think anyone who was on General Hospital is a star. I think that deserves celebrity, but we can agree to disagree. We can agree to disagree. How did you get into this business? Were you in LA? Did you grow up wanting to be an actor?
No, grew up outside of Philadelphia, actually, and then in Dover, Delaware. And looking back, though, I never really had the genetics to become a professional baseball player. It's what I love to do, and I grew up playing baseball. I was on a state championship team, and it's what I did every summer. And I remember when I got to 10th grade, and I don't believe I had yet broken 5 foot.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Shortstop.
Well, yeah, there aren't even a whole lot of 4'10" shortstops either. So, when I'm playing against these guys who are now shaving, and they're men, and I thought I'm not big enough, and I'm not strong enough to play anymore. And it's a true story. I remember thinking that, what am I going to do? And the announcements came over the intercom for auditions for the school play. And I had always been the class clown growing up, and I thought, well, let me give that a shot. I went, did a play called Lovers and Other Strangers, which was 4 different vignettes, if anybody remembers that, and got bit by the bug. The following year, the theater department went to see a professional production of Grease on stage. And I remember sitting there in absolute awe, and I decided then, that's what I want to do.
You had to wear that leather jacket. You had to be Danny.
Danny
Zuko.
Listen, at that point, I didn't even need to be Danny. I could be,
Just the theatrical event was attractive to you.
Yeah, it was the whole thing. It was the experience, and it wasn't just about. Being on stage with the people there. I mean, I love the community. Mm-hmm. I love hanging out with creative, interesting people. Yeah. And I love the process of Tech Week, and it's rather addictive, as you know.
I do know. I love it too. So, what brought you to the West Coast?
I graduated high school, and I loaded up my car, and I drove to California.
Really? After high school?
Yeah, right after high school.
With the theatrical bug freshly buzzing inside
with
you.
the idea that I wanted to go to Los Angeles. I did not go to New York because I've never been much of a song and dance guy. Meaning I can't really sing, and I really don't dance.
Not so much Broadway.
Not so much Broadway.
Yeah.
So I went to Los Angeles, and my friend stood there in the driveway with my mother on that very cold February morning and said, "Don't worry, he'll be back."
And so, wow, that's...
And 25 years later, my friend's like, "See, I told you."
25 years later. I love it when people tell you you can't do something. That's great incentive. So you didn't even have a role or an agent waiting for you in LA? You just went to pursue your dream?
Yeah.
Gosh, that's great. So you get there. How long did it take you to get something that you would put on your resume?
Well, I didn't actually get into the acting thing right away. It took me probably 3 years to acclimate to the whole thing. I wound up getting a job working on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills at a menswear store as a flunky, basically. But the people I met, and
Did you dress any celebrities?
I didn't necessarily dress any celebrities. Like I said, I was a flunky, but I met plenty of people during my time there, and I look back at that time very, very, very fondly. Struck up some very odd but wonderful friendships with some very interesting people, and then a little known fact is I was actually one of the first employees of a place called California Pizza Kitchen.
No way.
Yeah, one of the very first
Wow.
first guys that helped open it up, and the people that I got to meet there. I mean, conversations with John DeLorean and Billy Crystal, and I mean the list goes on and on.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And now we just go into Harris Teeter or Publix and we get a California Pizza Kitchen right out of the freezer now and cook it at home. That's really something.
Yeah, and I could have bought stock. I didn't. So
Missed opportunity there.
yeah, big one.
Okay, so a couple of years in retail and things like that. What brought you into your biggest role to that point? How did you do that?
Listen, the first thing anybody needs to do, and if I were going to go back and if I'm going to give anybody advice, the first thing you need to do is get yourself in class. That's the first thing. There's some very well-known people that I actually respect. Jason Bateman being one of them, who I think is tremendously talented and very funny, who swore off acting classes. Now his father's a director, so he was brought up in that whole thing. So I'm sure he had more of an education than he would like to admit. But I would say get into class, and it's not just to learn the technique of acting and being an actor. It's the collective energy. Mm-hmm. Quite possibly it's the networking opportunities, and you need to surround yourself with those people.
You did some coaching, acting coaching? Or?
Well, I did. In addition to producing and directing theater, I taught acting at an acting workshop on La Brea Avenue in Los Angeles, just off of Melrose, and ultimately opened up an acting studio with a couple of friends called Bang from Fairfax, and taught for about 12 years.
Wow.
And I enjoyed it. And I as far as high points, I think still talking to or realizing that you had an impact on a number of people is something I'm very proud of.
Well, that's just amazing. You've pretty much done it all in film, it sounds like, and I know you're still heavily involved. What brought you from the West Coast now to the Charlotte area?
Oddly enough, I decided to leave the business. I wrote a play that did very, very well in Los Angeles, and it was developed as a pilot presentation for the 4 networks at that time. Fox was very new, and I thought we were going to sell it, and we didn't. And I thought, you know what? I've got 2 little babies. I need to look into some other things. And so I kind of, put everything else aside. After having lived, breathed, ate, and slept it for a long time, I put it aside. Started a company that I fell into basically, which is designing marketing environments, themed environments, and trade show exhibits.
Oh, nice.
And since I had done quite a bit of set design as well, I was able to, incorporate some of my strengths, because I had a very odd, skill set at that point.
Sure.
And my mother said, after it became successful, she says, did you learn a lot working for that other company you worked for 6 months? And I said, no, I learned it producing equity waiver theater for $5,000.
Isn't that something?
And so I was able to take, I think, my strengths from there and kind of apply it.
Yeah.
I left, and then ultimately, continued to write, but thought I could do that anywhere. And I had 2 little kids, and thought I wanted to raise them somewhere else besides Los Angeles. My family had migrated down here from Delaware, or at least several of my sisters and my parents, and I thought, it's a nice place.
Well, I'm really glad you moved to the Charlotte, Lake Norman area, because now I got to meet you and have opportunities to enjoy some fun times. One of these times, a few weeks ago, one of Jeff's friends from Los Angeles, David Naughton, most notably the star of An American Werewolf in London, the Dr. Pepper guy, several other things that David has been involved with. Jeff invited David to come to Lake Norman for a movie screening and other things. Tell us a little bit about how that came together, and I was just thrilled with the result. How did this come? How did you bring David to town?
Yeah, David and I are Facebook friends. I've known David for 20 plus years now, and know him to be terrifically talented and wonderful guy and a great golfer. And he had posted something that referred to the 35th anniversary of American Werewolf in London, and I shared the post. A good friend of mine, Carl McArmour, reached out and said, "That's one of my favorite movies. You know, we ought to get together. We ought to have a screening. You know, and just invite our friends."
Yeah.
And I said, "That's a great idea." I said, oddly enough, David is a very good friend of mine, and maybe I should throw this out and see if he'd be interested in coming in. And it started as just a very kind of small, simple, hey, let's have David come in, we'll watch the movie, he can, do a Q&A or something like that.
Right.
And, it picked up some steam, got a guy named Rob Dyer to come in and assist and help us grow this thing. And so we had the event a couple of weeks ago at the Peninsula Yacht Club up in Cornelius.
Yeah.
And brought a band in, and was just kind of blown away by the response, as was David.
It was an amazing event. I was so happy that I was able to participate. And there was a charity benefit as well that was attached to this program that was put together. And I just had a blast. David was wonderful. I roped him into agreeing to doing a movie short with Jeff and I this summer, and he said sure. So I told him I'm going to hold him to that. So we'll see if that happens. But based on the success of this David Naughton movie screening, bringing to Lake Norman and the Charlotte community, this spurred you on to think of another event that you are interested in. Tell us about that.
It was very interesting because, as I said, David was thrilled and so appreciative of just the energy and the sheer amount of love that was,
was
thrown his way. Well, the response was rather overwhelming. Not only on Facebook and pictures and stuff like that, but I received a ton of texts and emails from people who were there and people who didn't make it. Mm-hmm. Most of the people who didn't make it were sorry they didn't.
Yeah.
And they said, "Are you doing something else?" And so it was something in the back of my head that, wouldn't this be interesting to maybe do this twice a year, to reach out to some of the people that I've met and still have relationships with, mm-hmm. as far as bringing them in and letting people meet them and rub elbows and stuff like that. And so we've got tentatively scheduled for October 7th.
Okay.
Is the penciled in date. Once again, probably at the Peninsula Yacht Club in Cornelius. We're bringing in Don Most, better known as Donnie Most, and Ralph Mouth from Happy Days. Yeah.
Awesome.
I've known Don. Don originally directed the play that I wrote and was in back in the previous century. No, the play was called "Is There Life After Birth?"
Is There Life After Birth? Interesting.
And and then subsequently Don hired me to write a screenplay called Moolah, which we got made again in 2005. And I've maintained a friendship with Don over the years, and he has been over the last several years performing as a singer.
Really?
Big band. It was Don's first love was musical theater.
Wow.
And he was taking song and dance lessons at a very, very young age. At I don't want to get this wrong. Brooklyn? I think it was Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's Brooklyn or the Bronx, but anyway, in New York, one of the boroughs. And so his first love is music, and he's a tremendous aficionado of a lot of standards, including jazz. And
is he going to sing in October 7th?
Well, not only is he going to sing. I mean, that's going to be the gist of the night, is him performing. And with a big band. We're not quite sure yet how big that band's going to be. Anywhere from 7 to 8 pieces to maybe 10 or 11.
Nice.
And he's got a number of albums out and things like that. And so,
is this opportunity on October 7th going to be open to the public?
It is, absolutely. And
Great.
So it's really just, we'd like to take the extra time that we have with this event that we didn't have with the previous event, mm-hmm. and see if we can't blow it out a little bit and talk to some charities, maybe get some corporate sponsorships and things like that.
Well, I will be there.
I look forward to it.
I will be there for sure.
Should be a lot of fun.
Jeff, it's really great visiting with you today. Amazing stories. I've really enjoyed learning more about your life and your career, and really look forward to what's next. And we'll let our viewers know how your script's coming along, if it's going to be a local production, if you're going to sell it, we definitely want to look forward to the October 7th, which is penciled in right now, the October 7th event with Don Most and Cornelius, presumably at the Peninsula Yacht Club. Can't wait to hear him sing with a big band.
Looking forward to it.
That'd be fantastic. Jeff, thank you.
Hey, you bet.
Really great to visit with you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So long, folks.